There is a number most people will never calculate until it's already too late, a number that doesn't appear on bank statements, doesn't trend on social media, and doesn't shout for attention, yet quietly decides who sleeps peacefully at night and who spends their life chasing money that never stays. It is the silver number you'll wish you had when opportunity has passed and regret becomes expensive. Because history has never punished those who prepared early, only those who waited for certainty that never came. I remember the first time I heard someone talk about silver not as jewelry or decoration, but as freedom. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was a calm conversation with someone who had lived through inflation, market crashes, broken promises from institutions, and still carried a quiet confidence. He didn't brag. He didn't rush. He simply said, "When systems fail, real value doesn't ask for permission." That sentence stayed with me longer than any motivational quote, because it wasn't about getting rich fast. It was about staying free when others panic. Silver wasn't just metal to him. It was time stored in physical form, effort preserved, choices protected. Most people are taught to work hard, save numbers on a screen, trust the system, and hope it works out. Few are taught to think in terms of ownership, scarcity, and long-term value. Silver forces you to think differently. It's tangible. You can hold it. You can feel its weight. It doesn't disappear with a password change or a policy update. And that physical reality changes your mindset. You stop chasing noise and start building substance. You stop reacting and start positioning. There was a small business owner I once met who had no interest in markets, charts, or speculation. Every profitable month, he quietly converted a portion of his earnings into silver. No excitement, no fear. Years later, when supply chains froze and currencies weakened, he didn't scramble. While others were selling assets at losses, he used his silver to acquire opportunities. Not because he was smarter, but because he respected value early. The lesson wasn't about timing tops or bottoms, it was about discipline. The habit of consistent action beats emotional decisions every time. Silver teaches patience in a world addicted to speed. It doesn't promise overnight miracles, but it rewards those who understand cycles. Just like life, growth is rarely linear. There are long periods of quiet accumulation, moments when nothing seems to happen, and then sudden shifts that change everything. People quit right before the shift. They sell right before the move. They doubt right before confirmation arrives. The ones who win are rarely the loudest. They are the ones who stayed when staying felt boring. Think about how many people spend years building skills, careers, and businesses, only to store their rewards in systems they don't control. Silver becomes a bridge between effort and preservation. It's not about replacing ambition. It's about protecting the results of ambition. When you understand that, your relationship with money changes. You stop measuring wealth only by income and start measuring it by resilience. There's a reason silver has been money longer than any modern currency. Empires rose and fell, technologies changed, borders shifted. Yet silver remained valuable across cultures and centuries. That history matters, because it reminds you that trends come and go, but fundamentals endure. When you own silver, you're aligning with a principle older than any central bank. Scarcity plus demand equals value. A young investor once shared how silver became his anchor during chaos. While headlines screamed fear and markets swung violently, his silver stack didn't move. It didn't need reassurance. It didn't care about opinions. It simply existed. That stability gave him clarity. Instead of reacting emotionally, he could think strategically. And clarity is an unfair advantage in a world driven by panic. The calm mind makes better decisions, and silver quietly supports that calm. Building wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about identity. Who you become in the process matters more than what you accumulate. Silver reinforces a mindset of responsibility. You don't buy it to impress anyone. You buy it to secure your future self. That shift from short-term validation to long-term vision separates dreamers from builders. Each ounce becomes a reminder that you chose preparation over consumption, discipline over impulse. Action doesn't have to be dramatic. Start small, but start intentionally. Decide on your silver number, not based on hype, but based on your goals, your risk tolerance, and your future responsibilities. Make it a habit, not an event. Consistency compounds silently. While others wait for perfect conditions, you build position. While others debate online, you quietly accumulate. There will always be reasons to wait. Prices fluctuate. Opinions conflict. Fear disguises itself as logic. But opportunity rarely announces itself clearly. It whispers first. Silver is one of those whispers. Those who listen early don't brag later. They simply live differently. Less stress, more options, more control over their time. The silver number you'll wish you had isn't about greed. It's about knowing that part of your effort is stored in something real, something outside the noise, something that doesn't need permission to hold value. Waiting for perfect information, waiting for approval, waiting for the world to feel safe enough to act. It's about choosing to respect uncertainty instead of fearing it. Before certainty arrives, before headlines confirm what patient investors already sensed, the decision itself becomes power. When you decide how much silver you want to own, you move from reaction to intention, and intention changes everything. Early decision-making creates psychological advantage. When prices move violently and opinions become loud, the person who already decided is calm. This calm doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from clarity. The world rewards clarity because clarity removes hesitation. History shows that certainty always comes late. By the time everyone agrees something matters, the opportunity has already changed shape. The same pattern repeats across generations. Quiet markets turn into crowded trades. The people who benefit are the ones who position themselves when doubt was highest. There is a deeper layer most people miss. Each ounce added becomes a vote for your future self. Think about how often people say they would have acted if they had known. Known what exactly? Silver rewards wisdom because it exists outside promises and narratives. It doesn't need belief to hold value. When you haven't chosen a direction, every headline becomes a threat. Price dips become opportunities. Price rises become confirmation, not pressure. You stop measuring progress daily and start measuring it in years. The people who regret the most are rarely those who took calculated action early. Regret usually belongs to those who waited for permission. Deciding your silver number early is a declaration that you don't need permission to prepare. Before certainty arrives, before narratives change, before value is obvious, the decision quietly shapes your future. Most people work their entire lives converting time into money, yet few ever think about converting money back into time. Silver represents that exchange in its purest form. It is effort preserved, energy stored, hours of your life locked into something real. When systems weaken and promises lose credibility, silver doesn't need explanations. It simply holds. That is why it has survived every experiment in paper wealth and digital abstraction. It doesn't depend on trust. It depends on scarcity and demand. When people talk about protecting wealth, they often focus on returns, percentages, and growth curves. But real protection begins with durability. Can what you own survive stress? Can it exist outside the rules changing around it? Silver answers those questions quietly. It has no counterparty risk. It doesn't rely on an institution remaining honest or solvent. It doesn't ask for permission to exist. That independence is its true power. There was a family that lived through currency devaluation more than once. Each time, savings that looked impressive on paper slowly lost purchasing power. What didn't change was the silver they held. It didn't multiply magically, but it retained its ability to exchange for real goods and opportunities. When others were forced to sell assets cheaply just to stay afloat, they had options. Options are the true definition of wealth. Silver teaches a different way to think about security. Instead of chasing constant growth, you learn to value stability. You learn that not everything in a portfolio needs to move fast. Some assets are meant to anchor you while the world shifts around you. Silver is that anchor. It keeps your financial center of gravity steady when emotions run high. There is also a mental shift that happens when you store value physically. You become more intentional. Spending becomes conscious because you understand what you are giving up. Each ounce represents work already done, risks already taken, discipline already exercised. This awareness naturally reduces impulsive behavior. You stop trading your future for temporary comfort. Systems weaken gradually, then suddenly. Trust erodes quietly before it collapses publicly. Silver doesn't wait for collapse to become valuable. It gains relevance as confidence fades. That is why it has always moved from the margins to the center during times of uncertainty. Not because it promises profit, but because it promises continuity. People who hold silver through unstable periods often speak about a sense of calm. Not excitement, not adrenaline, but calm. That calm allows better decision-making in other areas of life. Businesses are built better when the foundation is stable. Careers are navigated more confidently when financial fear is reduced. Relationships even benefit when money stress is lower. Silver doesn't replace ambition. It protects it. It allows you to take intelligent risks elsewhere because you know part of your effort is secured. This balance between offense and defense is what most people miss. They either chase growth recklessly or hide in fear. Silver sits between those extremes, offering balance. Storing wealth in silver is also a form of respect for history. It acknowledges that no system has ever remained unchanged forever. It accepts that progress and instability often travel together. Instead of denying that reality, silver holders plan for it. They don't assume disaster, but they prepare for disruption. Every ounce becomes a quiet agreement with your future self. A promise that you understood the difference between numbers that look good and value that lasts. A recognition that real wealth is not measured by how impressive it appears during good times, but by how well it holds when conditions turn difficult. Most people approach investing as a search for excitement, They want movement, stories, and constant confirmation that they are right. Silver rewards the opposite behavior. It rewards consistency when nothing seems to be happening. It favors those who understand that wealth is not built in moments of adrenaline, but in long periods of quiet discipline. Consistent accumulation may feel boring, but boredom is often the surface of mastery. Hype creates urgency without direction. It pushes people to act emotionally, usually at the worst possible time. Silver exposes this weakness because it moves in cycles that test patience. There are long stretches where it feels ignored, undervalued, even forgotten. This is where discipline is forged. Buying when there is no applause requires conviction. It requires a plan that exists independently of public opinion. People who succeed with silver rarely talk about perfect timing. They talk about habits. They set a rhythm. Monthly, quarterly, or yearly, they convert excess effort into something tangible. Over time, this rhythm compounds quietly, not just in ounces, but in mindset. Each purchase reinforces identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to get lucky and start seeing yourself as someone building deliberately. There was an entrepreneur who made it a rule to never buy silver on excitement. If headlines were loud, he waited. If the conversation was quiet, he acted. Not because he was trying to outsmart the market, but because he understood human behavior. Crowds move late. Silence often comes before movement. His results didn't come from prediction, they came from restraint. Timing creates pressure. Discipline creates freedom. When you rely on timing, every decision feels heavy. Fear of being wrong paralyzes action. With discipline, action becomes routine. You don't need to be right today because you're committed to being consistent over time. This removes the emotional burden that causes most people to quit. Silver also teaches respect for process. You learn that progress is uneven. Some years add little in perceived value, others shift dramatically. The disciplined accumulator stays through both. They don't get discouraged by flat periods or overconfident during spikes. They understand that the goal is position, not applause. Consistency also protects you from regret. People rarely regret buying gradually over time. They regret selling early or never starting at all. By spreading action across time, you reduce emotional extremes. You're not all in at the top or frozen at the bottom. You're simply present. There is a deeper lesson beneath accumulation. Discipline in silver often spills into other areas of life. Health routines improve. Business planning becomes long-term. Spending becomes intentional. The habit of delayed gratification strengthens character. Silver becomes a teacher, not just an asset. Hype fades quickly. Discipline compounds slowly. One creates stories, the other creates results. Markets reward results, not stories. Silver does not respond to excitement. It responds to supply, demand, and patience. When demand finally arrives in force, those who waited for confirmation find themselves chasing, while disciplined accumulators simply observe. In the end, discipline is a form of self-trust. It is choosing to believe that steady action aligned with fundamentals will outperform emotional reactions to noise. Silver quietly honors that belief by favoring those who show up consistently when nothing seems urgent, nothing feels dramatic, and nothing appears obvious. Most people are taught to consume first and think later. Earn more, spend more, upgrade faster, display success early. Silver disrupts that pattern at the level of identity. It shifts the focus from showing wealth to building it. When you choose silver, you are choosing ownership over appearance, substance over signal. That choice quietly reshapes how you see money, time, and yourself. Consumption is immediate gratification disguised as progress. It feels like movement, but it often leads in circles. Silver introduces friction, and that friction is valuable. You don't buy silver impulsively for attention. You buy it intentionally for preservation. That pause before purchase forces awareness. You begin asking different questions. Do I want this now, or do I want options later? This internal conversation is the beginning of wealth thinking. Ownership creates responsibility. When you own silver, you are directly accountable for it. Storage, security, and long-term planning become part of the process. This accountability builds respect for value. You stop treating money as something that flows through you and start treating it as something that stays with you. The shift may seem subtle, but it compounds over time. There was a professional who earned well, but always felt behind. Income increased, lifestyle followed, and stress never left. When he began allocating a portion of his earnings to silver, something unexpected happened. His lifestyle stopped inflating, not because he was forced to cut back, but because his priorities changed. Watching tangible value accumulate changed what felt rewarding. The thrill moved from spending to building. Silver encourages delayed gratification in a culture that avoids it. Delaying pleasure is not deprivation, it is strategy. It allows you to trade short-term comfort for long-term freedom. Each ounce becomes proof that you can say no today to say yes later. That ability strengthens confidence. You begin to trust yourself more because your actions align with your goals. The mindset shift is not just financial. It spills into how you approach challenges. Instead of reacting emotionally, you think in terms of positioning. Instead of seeking instant results, you focus on trajectory. Silver trains you to respect time as an ally rather than an enemy. Time works for those who are patient and punishes those who chase immediacy. Ownership also changes how you view risk. Consumers fear volatility because they live paycheck to paycheck emotionally, even if not financially. Owners understand that volatility is part of the process. They prepare for it instead of avoiding it. Silver sits calmly within that understanding. It does not promise constant growth, but it offers resilience. Resilience allows you to stay in the game longer, and staying in the game is where outcomes are decided. There's also a sense of sovereignty that comes with tangible assets. You are less dependent on explanations and reassurances. You don't need constant updates to feel secure. This independence reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves decision-making. Better decisions compound across every area of life. When you shift from consumption to ownership, your definition of success evolves. Success stops being about how impressive things look and starts being about how stable life feels. You measure progress by options, not appearances. You value peace of mind more than approval. Silver fits naturally into this identity because it is quiet, patient, and unapologetically real. The longer someone holds silver, the less they talk about it. Not because it's unimportant, but because it has already done its job internally. It has reinforced discipline, patience, and self-respect. These traits become part of who you are, not just what you own. This mindset transformation is why silver has always appealed to builders rather than speculators. Builders think in years. They understand that real wealth is constructed slowly and protected intentionally. They are not impressed by temporary gains because they are focused on permanence. Choosing silver is not just a financial decision. It is a personal declaration. A declaration that you value long-term ownership over short-term consumption, that you're willing to wait for what matters, and that you understand the quiet power of patience in a noisy world. Financial freedom is often misunderstood as a number in a bank account or a lifestyle that looks impressive from the outside. In reality, freedom is control over your decisions when pressure appears. It is the ability to remain calm while others rush, to wait while others panic, and to act deliberately when opportunities surface. Silver plays a unique role in building that kind of freedom because it operates outside emotional cycles and institutional promises. Tangible assets create a different relationship with risk. When value is physical, your mind processes it differently. You're less likely to overreact because what you own is not flashing, updating, or demanding attention. Silver sits quietly, and that quiet has power. It gives you space to think clearly. Clear thinking is the foundation of good decisions, and good decisions are the true drivers of wealth. People who hold silver often describe a subtle shift in behavior. They become less reactive to news and less dependent on external validation. When markets swing, their identity is not shaken because their foundation is not purely digital or theoretical. This emotional stability is rarely discussed, yet it is one of the most valuable advantages an investor can have. There was an investor who once said that silver did not make him rich, but it made him unshakable. During downturns, he was not forced to sell assets at the worst moments. During booms, he was not tempted to overextend himself. Silver gave him balance. Balance allowed him to survive long enough to succeed. Calm is an underrated asset. In chaotic environments, calm individuals see what others miss. They notice inefficiencies, undervalued opportunities, and strategic openings. Silver supports calm by reducing existential financial fear. When you know part of your wealth is stored in something real, pressure loses its edge. You can breathe, you can wait, you can choose. Control is built gradually. It comes from reducing dependence on systems you do not understand or influence. Silver represents self-custody of value. No intermediary is required for it to exist. That independence may seem simple, but it has deep psychological impact. You begin to feel responsible for your outcomes rather than at the mercy of external forces. Clarity follows control. When financial noise fades, your goals sharpen. You can think beyond survival and into strategy. What do you want your life to look like in 10 years? What kind of work do you want to do? How much flexibility do you want with your time? Silver does not answer these questions. but it creates the stability required to ask them honestly. Using silver as part of a broader plan also encourages patience. You stop expecting every asset to perform the same function. Some assets grow aggressively, others protect. Silver protects. That protection allows you to take intelligent risks elsewhere. It becomes the foundation that supports growth rather than competing with it. Freedom is not about avoiding risk. It is about choosing which risks to take. When everything you own is exposed to the same vulnerabilities, your choices are limited. Silver diversifies not just your portfolio, but your options. It gives you leverage in moments when others feel trapped. There's also a sense of dignity that comes with tangible wealth. You're not entirely reliant on explanations, projections, or promises. You hold value that has been recognized across centuries and cultures. This continuity builds confidence. Confidence changes posture. It changes how you negotiate, how you plan, and how you move through uncertainty. Silver encourages long-term thinking because it does not reward impatience. It asks you to trust fundamentals or narratives. This trust builds internal strength. You stop looking for constant reassurance. You become comfortable with waiting. Waiting becomes a skill rather than a weakness. The people who achieve lasting freedom are rarely the ones chasing excitement. They are the ones building resilience. Resilience allows you to absorb shocks without losing direction. Silver contributes to resilience by acting as a steady reference point when everything else feels unstable. As clarity increases, control deepens. As control deepens, fear diminishes. With less fear, creativity expands. You begin to see opportunities not as threats, but as possibilities. Silver does not create opportunity, but it creates the mental and financial space required to recognize it. Over time, the presence of silver in your life becomes less about the metal itself and more about what it represents. Preparation over panic, ownership over dependence, calm over chaos. These qualities compound quietly, shaping decisions long after the initial purchase. True financial freedom is not a dramatic moment. It is a gradual state of confidence built through many small, intentional choices. Silver supports those choices by anchoring your wealth in something real, allowing you to move through the world with clarity, control, and quiet strength. If this message resonated, if it challenged the way you think about money, value, and the future, take a moment to support this journey. Like this video so it reaches others who need clarity in uncertain times. Subscribe to stay connected to wisdom that prioritizes long-term freedom over short-term hype. Share this with someone who's working hard but hasn't yet learned how to protect the results of their work, because the best time to think about your silver number is before you wish you had chosen it sooner.